Alright, let's see. Oh, whoops. Back cam to start. Sorry, guys. Can't see me yet. Uh-oh. Let's mute that. Let's also mute this. Okay. We're getting the post out, and then we will be ready to begin for the day. Yeah, that's good enough. That is good enough for the post. Let's see. Well, sorry I'm late. Lots of things going on in the news, at least in the second half of the day. And I guess even more so in my life. I'll get you guys updated on that at the end. So let's go over to the main cam. Let's get this started. Maybe I can get this fixed too. Is this working? Oh, it's working. Cool. Thought my Rumble thing was messing up. It's just on my end. Okay. So today is Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. This is episode number 41 of Addressing the Issues. We'll get you started with last night. I think we've been caught up from the weekend, at least as close as we're ever going to get now. So yeah, last night the lights on board Air Force One turned off unexpectedly, and the plane was forced to turn around over the Atlantic with President Trump on board. The flight was en route to the World Economic Forum in Davos, where he gave his speech today. So I guess you can assume he made it. But upon return, President Trump then boarded the C-32, which is typically used for smaller trips domestically, before embarking on his trip to Davos, where he landed. I'll get into what happened in Davos today, and after I guess an update on what was originally going to be our main story, because not much was going on until the news from the World Economic Forum was, I guess, released, happened. Lots of stuff going on there. Oh goodness, my hair is crazy today. Sorry about that. But an update on the winter storm Fern. So this storm has shifted substantially north on a few models last night. Winter Storm Fern could affect up to 180 million Americans, with snow totals between Saturday and Monday reaching a forecasted 2 to 3 feet in the northern Virginia area, according to the Euro model, and 2 to 3 feet in the western North Carolina and southwest Virginia areas, according to the United States GFS models. States possibly affected by the storm will range from Colorado and New Mexico and Texas all the way across the southeast and Georgia, ranging as far north as Maine and Wisconsin. According to meteorology experts, this is a rapidly changing situation, so if you have a chance of winter weather, particularly with this system, it's best to just be prepared. Pay attention to your local weather station for updates on the severe weather system. Obviously not me. I'm not a meteorologist, just an extra messenger today. I'm not going to be giving live updates through the storm like they will, so make sure you're tuned into your local weather station, your local meteorologist, because I'm not going to know exactly what's going to happen, particularly for every single person. I just know that this is shaping up to be a big snow and ice storm, particularly across the southeast. So some advice as the messenger. I think I can give you this information because it doesn't take a meteorologist to tell you this. Have food at your house, particularly food that can be prepared with no electricity, not just the classic milk, eggs, and bread, because apparently snow days gives everyone a hankering for French toast. I think that's just something we all know nowadays. This also means not just stocking up on freezer foods, which you will need a microwave for, or an air fryer, but you'll need to have food that can be eaten straight out of the pantry. This is crucial. Electric cooktops and microwaves will not work once the power goes out, guys, and given the nature of this storm, it could go out for prolonged periods of time. You're still going to be able to use gas appliances, at least somewhat, by lighting them with an external flame, such as a match or lighter. I'd recommend go ahead and getting new of these for this purpose, as soiled matches or an empty lighter are not going to help you in this situation. Also, if you are choosing to use a gas cooktop, ensure that the gas is not leaking before use and that it is cut off after, as this could result in a fire, explosion, or asphyxiation. I don't want any of my viewers going out like that. I did look this up. The grill is also an option, assuming that you keep it covered before and after uses. You still have to let it cool, even if it's snowing, before you cover it back up. And also, if you do this, make sure you dress warm if you're out grilling during this, and you maintain safety while doing so. If you plan on using the grill, if it's a propane grill, get extra propane, as it is less efficient in cold temperatures. So maybe you might want to grab a second canister of propane if you plan on using the grill during this snowstorm. A recommendation of mine from losing power and tropical storms for prolonged periods of time are actually, just the Star-Kissed lunch to go. It comes with packaged tuna, a relish and mayo packet, and crackers, and it makes for a reasonable snack, a reasonable meal, I guess. You can pair it with sides. But it's almost like a tuna salad. You can just sit it in the pantry. You can obviously always get these items, being the packaged tuna, crackers, relish packets, and mayo by themselves, if the grocery is out of the lunch packs. But I do enjoy the little lunch packs when I'm out of power, just sitting there, have nothing else to eat. They're not too bad. It's kind of like tuna salad. It's not as good as a fresh tuna salad sandwich, but it'll do if you're hungry, I promise. I also like dried fruit and nuts. These are also recommended because you still need to have your nutrition while you're out of power, even if you can't have your typical grilled steak, grilled chicken dinner. This is still something that you have that will give you sustenance through hard times. Also, knowledge from tropical storms, being out of power for prolonged periods of time, get bottled water. You're going to need to remain hydrated. And in these temperatures, there's a real chance your pipes could freeze and you won't have that easy access to water that you normally would. Another note, if you have pets, make sure that they have extra food and supplies as well. If you have a baby, make sure it has formula and diapers. Just stuff that, you're going to need throughout the time, especially given the dire nature that this situation could bring upon you. If you have farm animals, make sure that they are fed, sheltered, and have access to water, not ice. Dehydration is the main culprit for livestock deaths during winter storms. You don't want to go out back and find that your cows and your pigs and horses have all died of dehydration because you let the water freeze over and they couldn't drink it anymore. Another note, contact your pharmacist or doctor if need be soon. If you need to refill your medications, they can make exemptions for emergency situations like this, like early refills of necessary medication. Don't wait until Friday night to do this. Do it now. Give them and yourself a chance to get the medication that you need, because they may have to order it. You want to have it before the storm hits, because going out is harder, and the pharmacist might not even show up that day. So, yeah, make sure you're getting your medications refilled, especially life-saving medications. Have clean, cold weather clothes, jackets, coats, toboggans, beanies, whatever you want to call them, gloves, mittens, pants, clean pants, blankets, stuff to keep you warm. Make sure you fill up your gas tank the day before it starts snowing. This would mean likely Thursday or Friday, depending on where you are in the U.S. Don't wait until after it starts snowing to start driving around, rushing for gas, rushing for supplies. It's honestly too late at that point. You just need to be at home. Have reserve fuel for generators if you have one. This is going to be something useful to keep you cool, or keep you warm, keep you warm. Keep your lights on if you do have a generator. I'll let you have your phone charged, stuff like this. Watch TV, I guess, if you really want to. Have flashlights and batteries that work in said flashlights. And extra batteries in case you do need to replace them. Make sure your batteries are working. Make sure they're not corroded. Make sure that in case that the batteries in your flashlight currently are dead, that they are replaced so that the flashlight will work when you need it. Also have a way to charge your phone, like a external power source or battery, in case you do have an emergency situation and need to call for help. Emergency situations still happen when it's snowing outside. So make sure that you have a way to call 911 if you need them. I mean, you could have heart issue. Let's see. I forgot how to do this. Are we back now? Okay, this isn't good. This is not good, guys. Okay. I think we're back. Sorry about that, everybody. Where were we? Batteries and flashlights. Yes, emergency situations still do happen during snowstorms. Make sure that you have some way to contact emergency services if you do have an emergency. You can't contact them on a dead phone. If you do have a wood-burning fireplace, make sure that you have firewood. I think your neighbors will be jealous of this, even more so than they typically are. But make sure, it's well-maintained and free from hazards. Make sure that the chimney's not clogged. There's no fire hazards laying around the fireplace if you do choose to light it. It's also useful to have a carbon monoxide detector, this in general, but particularly in situations like these. Make sure that it's working, especially if you do intend to use flames with no ventilation. The heating and air conditioning units aren't going to work without power. However, a battery-powered carbon monoxide detector will. It will keep you safe. I'll make sure that you don't asphyxiate yourself with carbon monoxide. That would be a terrible fate during a snowstorm. Nobody's going to know to come check on you. They're going to think you're just fine and out of power. But this is stacking up to be a really bad storm, guys. There's a real possibility that supply lines will lag days behind after the storm, especially given the possible amounts of precipitation and below freezing temperatures for days after. There's also a real possibility that power will go out for a prolonged period of time, such as hours and days at a time. Don't attempt to travel unless it is absolutely necessary until you are 100% sure that you can get to and from, I guess possibly from, your destination safely. Make sure you can get to it safely. And if you see someone in need, of course, offer to help them in any way you can. This is a time to stick together, especially if the storm is as bad as it could possibly be. Care for one another, whether it be towing them out of a ditch or just giving them a ride up the road to somewhere warm. There's going to be a lot of wrecks on the road. Just beware of not just snow on the road that you can see, but black ice. If it looks like the road has been cleared or possibly a little wet, you're only going to know it's ice when you drive or walk over it. So be careful with that. We've all seen the terrible snow pileups in recent years. We've seen the people stranded on interstates like Atlanta years back. Just be sure you're prepared for the worst and be glad if it isn't, particularly with this system that's coming through. Have a reserve of food, have means of staying warm, have a means of contacting the outside world if you do have an emergency. Worst case scenario, if you fully prepare, you have to eat a few extra meals at home, a few extra home cooked meals next week. But if you're not prepared, I'm sure you can guess what the worst case scenario is with no food and no heat and a sub-freezing temperature. In the South, this is likely going to be one of those storms that people talk about for years. It'll be a random day 10 years from now or more, and somebody will say something along the lines of, you remember that storm from 26? And you'll say, oh yeah, that was awful, but at least I was prepared. And that's what I want you guys to be. I want you guys to be prepared. Whether it be snow or ice accumulation, the storm is going to cause a loss of power across major portions of America. Emergency services will likely be over-encumbered with calls for simple mistakes like driving to the fast food joint for a cheeseburger, or fires because people did not ensure that their chimney was clear or that the surroundings were safe before starting the fireplace. Don't be a part of the problem, y'all. Just be smart. Spend some time hanging out with the family. Maybe while you're getting prepared, grab a board game or two, something that can be done with the family without risk of further straining emergency services. Also, maybe, you can get a sled. Just don't get hurt sledding around. It's my advice. Then we'll get to the main story today, I guess, happened a little over an hour ago. So in a developing story, it seems that President Trump, while in Davos, has reached an agreement on the acquisition of Greenland. President Trump posted on Truth Social a little over an hour ago, based upon a very productive meeting that I've had with Secretary General of NATO Mark Rutte. We have formed the framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. This solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations. Based upon this understanding, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect on February 1st. Additional details are being held concerning the Golden Dome as it pertains to Greenland. Further information will be made available as discussions progress. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and various others as needed will be responsible for the negotiations. They will report directly to me. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Someone throw a fur coat on Marco Rubio. Congratulations, you're the new governor of Greenland. When asked if the deal would include ownership of Greenland, as President Trump wanted, he responded, "It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a real good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else." When asked how long the deal would be for President Trump, he responded, "Infinite. There is no time limit. It's forever." He went on to say, "People are out there and they are working it right now. They are working the details of the deal, but it's what is called an infinity deal. It's forever." They're currently renaming the book as we speak. They're calling it The Art of the Infinite Deal. It seems fitting to say this now, 1 year and 1 day into President Trump's second term. Welcome to the Golden Age. I hope you all enjoy. President Trump announced in an interview that the tariffs on Europe were off and were planned to go into effect on February 1st because of the concept of a deal for the U.S. acquisition of Greenland. When asked if it would be ownership, President Trump responded that it is a little complex, but we will explain it down the line. But the Secretary General of NATO and I, Donald Trump, referring to himself, and some other people were talking, and it's the kind of deal that I wanted to be able to make. When asked where Denmark was on the deal, President Trump responded, well, I assume they did because he very much represents, he's a strong leader, Mark Rutte, and I assume he's been speaking to them. He's been speaking to all of them. When President Trump was asked if mineral rights and ownership were involved, he responded, I don't want to say yet. But when President Trump was asked if the Golden Dome was involved, he claimed, yeah, the Golden Dome, they're going to be involved in the Golden Dome, and they're going to be involved in mineral rights, and so are we. So it seems like we've made a pretty good deal with NATO. Sounds like the U.S. possibly is acquiring Greenland. Seems like that is in the cards right now. I'm going to speculate on what this deal means, why it was reached, but I do believe that it has something to do with the supply chains for U.S. aircraft, U.S. missile defense. Some of these parts are made in NATO countries, in Europe. I think that this ensured that these jobs would not be brought back to the U.S. However, it would allow the U.S. to acquire Greenland, and that's how they are involved in the Golden Dome. I think they'll be making the missiles, at least components of them, overseas in NATO countries. I think that those will be moved to Greenland, or the U.S. will be in charge of mineral rights. It'll be in charge of defense of the island, something that NATO seemed to be lagging behind on, at least Denmark in particular. So I think that's basically what the deal was. I think that it removed the tariffs. It's going to allow them to continue to build these missile components, aircraft components, and it's going to allow the U.S. to defend it. I think it's probably a fair deal. I think we could have stiffed them a little bit. No, I'm kidding. I think it's a good idea. Like I said, I think that this is crucial for national security, and if NATO, Denmark, Nordic countries weren't willing to help us on it, we've got to help ourselves. I think this was probably the best way of doing so. Glad to see it happen. And I think, like I said, this will be the golden age. I was wondering if he'd turn it around at the World Economic Forum this year. And it seems like 1 year and 1 day later, we are finally reaching the golden age. So thank you, President Trump. You're doing a great job in Davos. Keep it up. I know it's a couple more days longer. Speaking of Davos, there's somebody else in Davos, everybody's favorite governor, Gavin Newsom. He seemed to be upset at the infinity deal on Greenland, claiming it had been a deal for almost a year, continuing to lie to his fan club of obviously easily influenceable individuals. He's told world leaders that they need to get off their knee pads for Trump. I can only assume that this is because he wants to be president. When he goes over there, he's going to get on his knee pads for all the world leaders. That's just how he rolls. But I think that's why he's so upset. He knows nothing but spite. He doesn't know leadership. This was leadership that we've seen in Davos this year. Bringing what I would consider finally the golden age to America, having reasonable energy policy, ensuring national defense, and laying out a framework for countries to prosper without the World Economic Forum, without all these ridiculous United Nations policies, I guess you could call them. But I think that's why Gavin Newsom's mad. He wanted to go over there and get on his knees, and because Trump wasn't on his knees, he's upset. Sorry, Gavin. He can't be a president. He doesn't have leadership. It's absolutely absurd. I guess in our last story of the day, today the House Oversight Committee voted to hold Bill and Clinton in contempt of Congress for defying their subpoena earlier this month. This report is now going to go to the House, I guess, followed by the Senate. It's time. You can't just defy Congress. You can't not show up to your subpoena. When people haven't done this before, they've been arrested and put in prison. They've been put in jail. No one is above the law, Bill. No one is above the law, Hillary. I think I've heard her say that before, actually. I think we all have. But now it's time that they face some accountability. They can't just make up the rules as they want them. They aren't the president, at least not anymore. One of them will never be the president, believe it or not. That's where we are with that. Hopefully they will be held in contempt of Congress. And I like to see her locked up. I think I've said that a few times. It was a promise in 2016. Maybe we can fulfill it in 2026. Only 10 years late. So, that's all the news we have for today. You know, if you enjoyed, go ahead and drop a like. If you found it useful, be sure to drop a like as well. Subscribe to the YouTube, follow on Rumble. If you think the little snowstorm advice could be useful for somebody, be sure to share it to them. Everybody's making their last minute list, making their last minute runs to the grocery. And if you think there's somebody that could use that, make sure that they're not missing supplies, making sure they're not making terrible life-altering decisions, go ahead and send it to them. I'd appreciate it. I think they'd appreciate it as well. There are quite a few things that you'll likely forget. I think I made a rather comprehensive list. I used National Weather Service. I used a few other independent sources. But I think that was pretty comprehensive of everything that you're going to need for getting through Winter Storm Fern. It's not going to affect me, but I know it's going to affect, like I said, 160 million Americans. That's quite a few people. If you could get this shared to all 160 million of them, make sure that they're all safe, they're all cared for, I'd appreciate it. I don't know if it's going to go that far, but I think it's something that maybe not a vast majority, but a plethora of Americans will be able to use in the coming days, especially getting those last-minute preparations, getting those last-minute supplies, even just having things to do while a snowstorm is there, while the power's out, and things you can do. I didn't know you could use the grill until I looked it up. I guess that's probably obvious to some people, but I also figured, there's probably a right and wrong way to do it. You can't have it clogged up and choking out the smoke. You also can't choke yourself out with smoke by having a clogged chimney, starting a fire in your house. So, make sure you're getting all your last-minute preparations done, guys. Be safe. Be smart. Don't strain emergency services even more so than they already will be. So we're going to move on to a programming update. So there likely will be no more shows through this weekend. I guess that's good that I got the winter weather advice out before then. But I have an opportunity doing a broadcast with, live TV. So I'll be taking that opportunity over the next couple of days. And, hopefully it works out. If it doesn't, it's an experience builder. Maybe I'll come back better than ever, more experiences than ever, better abilities, more knowledge. I think it'll be good for me. Maybe not good for you guys. I know some of you guys come in here every day for the news. And I'm sorry to disappoint if that is even a realistic thing. I don't know if anybody will be disappointed, but that's what I'm doing. I'm going to be working with somebody. I'm going to be doing a little bit of live television over the weekend locally. So that should be fun for me, give me a little bit of experience, another notch on the belt, another bullet point on the resume. But I think that'll be good. Even if it doesn't work out long term, I'll have a little bit more experience, a little bit better ability to help you guys into the future. So I think that'll be at least good for me, fun for me. But I figured I'd let you guys know that there likely won't be any shows throughout the weekend. I'll be back Monday for sure. But this is throwing a loop into the whole guest episode thing. It's throwing a loop into the broadcasts for Thursday and Friday. It's at the same time, so there's not even a chance I could rush back and do it then. So that's where we're at with that. So I guess I will see you guys, possibly Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If this doesn't work out, like I said, it's still up in the air. But if it does work out, I will see you guys on Monday. We'll be back on Monday at 4:45 Eastern Time. Probably going over the impacts of the storm. Probably talking about the results of the World Economic Forum, if anything interesting else happened. I think we've seen the big news already. Awesome big news. That's where we're at. I'll see you guys, I don't know when, but surely Monday. So to my people on the East Coast, I hope you get home safe. To my people further west, I hope you finish up your workday strong and get home safe as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again when I see you.